Good morning and welcome to, I guess, a mild revival of I Wanna Play. Just playing vaguely random games that won't turn to series that I may or may end up never finishing. Today we have Killing Floor 2. I'm playing, I don't know, what I'm playing. This game's weirdly deep, but also at the same time very chill. Somehow level 7 is a sharpshooter and field medic. I don't remember this happening, but I've been playing this game for like let's say almost a year, about 10 months since I built my first PC. Right. It's pretty fun. Should I go steady or quick draw? Let's go quick draw. Let's go quick draw. So you can just like double up with the thingy bob, the dual wield. But anyway, yeah, pretty fun game. I thought let's go back to the old school days of a bit more diversity, but also just yeah, let's have some fun until I search for a topic to talk about. And I thought maybe this is a fun one. There was that mild revival of the classic violence video game.
Eyes open.
It hurts when you miss in slow motion. It hurts a lot more.
She kills.
Violence in video games, and the problem of catharsis versus coercion, which is a bit weird because if you're going to be violent, if you're sorry, getting preoccupied there, aren't I? If you are going to be violent, in real life, it removes the realm of video games in which, obviously, oh, that's embarrassing. Obviously, it removes the realm in which your actions have no consequence. So obviously, GTA 5, you can go on a killing spree, and it's fine in the real world because no one in the real world was hurt. But even in the game, you're chased by the police. They attempt to apprehend you, right, to show your actions have consequences. But regardless of what consequences you cause, well, that was awkward, wasn't it? Regardless of what consequences you cause, naturally, they have no effect in the real world. Whereas it's always a weird one where they ask about what the media habits of your weekly school shooter is, rather than the total habits of, for example, are they playing video games as an escape from a life in which they... Oh, I love the Winchester. It's kind of weird. I have a thing for the Winchester. I upgrade it straight up. Anyway, yeah, how'd you give money again?
Who's short of cash? Thanks.
You don't want the money? Okay. See? Right there. Community spirit. What's it going? Yeah, an idea of, that people tend to look at the media habits because obviously, we all engage with media these days, especially now with the age of user-generated content. And, it's a... I don't know, it's a shame, really, that we still face the same issues of, say, like 30 years ago, where the generational gaps and lack of understanding of the true root of issues and the need to scapegoat things is ever present. But especially when, it's a shame of when there literally is basically a weekly school shooter or weekly some form of shooter. It's hard to say we made sense out of it, because then you have to confront the issues of like accepting that there's so many things wrong, so many little things wrong that one guy engaging a certain given media can be pushed. I would accept him by presenting the argument of making video games to violence, that there's so many things wrong in society that someone playing a video game can turn out violent, or the idea of even our media, such a depiction of violence. What was I getting at?
But there are plenty left.
Our industry has such a depiction of violence. What's happening? What's going on? We don't do this. That our video games often have such a depiction of violence because we have such a deep need for catharsis. In our society, like we need these realms in which we can just go on killing sprees. Where I can just kill zombies. Like, guns are cool. you know. Well, that's awkward, isn't it? Guns are cool. I like the idea of guns, which is funny because the only reason I got into that was like World War II history, you know, understanding the mechanics, the engineering side. And also it's kind of cool if you want to go like shoot some cans or something, you know. But I'd much rather push for the idea of improving defensive technology rather than offensive technology. Like, you know, when like it was like really heartbreaking to hear about teachers talking about, you know, should teachers be trained with guns when maybe teachers should be trained with shields. You know, that the covering staff, is there a roll-up kind of flexible but bulletproof material that can be developed? You know, in the meantime, while we're still working on the general issues of, you know, we live in a society in which a certain amount of people just don't value life, for example. But yeah, it just made me think a lot about the amount of issues that accumulate to the point where one person with slight mental issues can play a video game and take that as inspiration. If that was ever the case, or just solely the case, which I don't believe is the case. You know, maybe an inspiration for actions they're already trying to do. But I don't see a world in which someone is seeking to do this, partake in such heinous acts. Let me fill that up, and then fill that up. Cool. Partake in such heinous acts just of playing video games alone. Like, they were completely fine, and then it was, you know, Call of Duty that troubled them. But then again, you know, Call of Duty campers back in the day, and, you know, recency of, you know, well, most of the games that are futuristic, there's so much chaos going on that you feel a bit out of control, don't you? So maybe that is, you know, the crux of the issue, when you feel a bit out of control. Skip trader. Yeah, that's what you need to get at when you live in a society, basically a globalized world as well, where, like, you know, you're affected by everyone. So anyone who is already super rich or super powerful already has such an influence on day-to-day life. And yeah, you're fine. You'll probably live in a decent area of the world if you are able to be playing video games casually and watching this video casually in HD. But there's the question of all the little things that we missed out, the little cracks that go through, which remind me a lot of like being in China. Like, China's infrastructure is really, really good. Trains run on time. They're really on job with that shit, as I believe most communist legacy countries ought to be. You know, but there's so many little issues of like social issues that just weren't dealt with because they didn't make the time out to deal with them. You know, that's why it's easy for me to compare like USA to China quite a lot. You know, massive countries, so hard to like regulate from the top down. Jingoism, all of that. But anyway, that was sports. Otherwise, violent video games are fun. Of course, you know, you want to be a good person. That's the idea, rather than, no matter what you do, you wanna, you know, being a good gamer is about being a good person. If you're a person who has integrity, I lost because my skill level needs to improve and not because of lag. Although sometimes that is the case, as you know, my friends on the EUS League of Legends server will reload. As my friends on the League of Legends EUS server will know, because, you know, that server is a bit of a joke sometimes. I think it was down for a bit. It was basically down for like a third of the people. It was stupid. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was streaming actually. So then I started playing City Skylines. But yeah, well, there's a lot going on, isn't this? Yeah, what I've realized is being a good person until you become a good gamer. Like being a good musician. You know, can you clap in the 2 and the 4? Can you work with other people? Yeah, if you're a good person, you'll end up being a good gamer if you spend enough time trying to prove yourself, because you already have the foundation of, you know, integrity, teamwork, you know, playing honest characters and not playing Feng Wei in Tekken. But anyway, whatever. That's the last dude.
That was the last one.
Cool.
Get to the indicated
Yeah.
pod for resupply.
That's what I can think about, really. It feels weird actually coming back. Like, obviously I've adjusted now properly back to England town, but it's
Nice work.
weird, like, you know, actually being on my own built gaming PC and just kind of hanging out, you know, weekends off, life is decent. Like, this is a viable thing now, like actually being able to just YouTube on the fly, you know, which is what I always wanted to do ever since I was a wee baby. Anyway, gonna upgrade those. I don't need this. We're gonna sell that. You wanna upgrade the Winchester once more. We're carrying 11 out of 15, so we'll just autofill the rest. Oh, sorry, fuck. I forgot to autofill. Autofill is, you know, R3, I believe. But anyway, I'm liking this idea. You can host your own server now. They keep advertising it, which sounds quite cool actually. I like Killing Floor partially because
Last chance. I
not
have to power
only
down the pod.
you know it's quite fun, easy fluid gameplay.
This is
you know
not right.
things work out right. It's killing zombies. You know, some nice little atmosphere as you can see.
Protect the area.
You know, but on top of that, you know, they keep adding things. For example, there's a Christmas update that was quite fun, and they keep changing things ever so slightly. Like this is a living game, and you're getting a lot of that, which is kind of cool because there's living games, for example, like FIFA, that are a bit like, you know, like coin-operated living games. You know, that are just here to keep living, so they keep siphoning your funds. But this one, it lives because the support from the developers, which is nice. I mean, it's not mandatory, but obviously it's nice. It's like on the edge of super irrigation, you know, like doing more than what is supposedly required of you. You know, like I'm not too adamant about having constant updates every like couple months, but it's really fun. Keeps it fresh. I mean, especially because you've got a simple formula of, you know, kill the zombies, shoot the zombies, punch the zombies. Yeah, I use that time in the slowdown if I'm reloading to look around me to plan my next moves. Because, you know, I'm a strategist now. Ah! It's frustrating using the guns so well. Nice headshot. Ooh. Yeah, I think there's that weird thing. The era of living games is quite an interesting thing. The one we're in now, where updates can be consistent. You can keep a game going for years. I mean, League of Legends alone obviously had that massive user interface overhaul and, you know, design overhaul like a few years ago. But it's still fundamentally the same game from 2009. Like 10 years in a row, and a sequel doesn't look like it's on the cards for at least another 3 or 4 years, right? If there is one, you know. I mean, there might come a point where maybe the spaghetti code will be a bit too much, and they'll stop acting like they're an indie company. Right. They'll stop acting like they're an indie company, and then actually, you know, maybe make a decent game from the ground up. Which is why they did a lot of the overhaul stuff, because there was some game-breaking glitches back in the day, and now there's just different ones and different interactions. And obviously, when you have a game of 150 champions, there's so much going on. But here I am talking about League again. I'm talking about fun games like Killing Floor that do it right, living games done right. But of course, it's a bit easier when you're not trying to be hyper big budget AAA. Therefore, commanding a AAA expenses and kind of needing to nickel and dime. Always feeling the need to nickel and dime. Because, you know, you've got to support like the mortgages of, you know, a few thousand people, you know. So of course they overwork, so technically they may have salary jobs, but they technically get underpaid,
Area almost totally secure.
and then naturally,
Nice
you know,
work.
you're left with what we have these days, which is
Feels good
pretty
though,
much
when no
unsustainable
one dies.
AAA business. You know, I propose, you know, keep the living games going. I mean, games as a service is a weird thing, and, you know, always met with cynicism, but if done well, it could be chill. Problem is, I don't ever think there will ever be a true balance between, oh, if I pay £20 and then say £5 every year if I want new features, but we get, I mean, for example, Paradox's games, you pay for a bit and then there's features
I owe you one.
that you get, right? But
Who needs this?
we're gonna sell these. Let's get 5. Upgrade those. Upgrade them again. And then fill L3.
Money, anyone? Lovely.
Yeah, anyway. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so like the idea of, do I pay 20, like Rainbow Six Siege, for example, it's pointed out as like a game you can pay for the basic stuff or the lower stuff and get more stuff I think there's what 3 tiers, and you get more content out of the gate the more you pay. But like there's a low barrier of
Go
entry.
kill some
But
Zeds.
if you really want, you can like
Too
get
quiet,
engaged
people.
with the game
I don't like
as much
it.
as you want to, or as much as you're willing to
I
invest.
shall exterminate
You
you. It will be a
So-
small test for my suit.
Yeah, should be cool.
Have I scared you?
Either way,
Don't
but I like the idea of Rainbow Six and maybe like games like Paradox that they charge, and obviously there's the complaint of the DLC is ridiculous because there's so much DLC. Like to play the game full, like with everything on, there's lots of tiny little things that aren't really important like texture packs, but there's a couple like there are a couple of DLC that are basically like paramount. You're going to play certain countries, like only about maybe 2/3 of the countries are playable if you don't have any DLC. There's a couple that are much more important than others that may or may not go on sale. Oh shit! I always forgot it kills your reload timer. Shit. Oh. Sorry, got a bit busy there. So, but at least Paradox, one thing Paradox does well is the fact that they one thing that Paradox does do well is that eventually the features from the older DLC end up in the free game. Eventually, that's only eventually, but there's still a couple of features that may never end up there. Which is the problem. I was just shooting at the wall. Oh shit. And eventually, I like that idea of if you're going for a long-term living game, having features that slowly become part of the free experience ever so slightly. Like discount, or it'd be cool, for example, if like in fighting games the DLC characters maybe after 2 or 3 years from like season 1 or whatever become part of the game in its course, if that is a possible thing. Kill him. Cool. Thanks guys. Where'd he go? Shit. Yeah, that idea. I like that game as a service, and I think people would be willing to buy into that if they knew that eventually everything becomes free. And say, okay, after 7 years we're ready to move on, so for our 10th anniversary we release the game with a discount, that kind of thing, like Game of the Year editions, you get everything released with a discount, that kind of thing for a living game. I think would be the somewhat sustainable future we should be looking into. Otherwise, I love those ones when you like reflexively panic. What I love about this game is when you panic headshot. It's the best thing ever. Best thing ever is when you panic headshot. Fuck's sake. Okay. I need to reload. Shit. Shit. 22 health. Bang. Okay, 22 health left. Is it just... It's 3 of us. Let's see what you can do. 2.5. Shit. Okay.
Oh yeah.
You are so fragile.
Fuck! Ah! Okay, he's gonna clutch it. He's gotta clutch it. He's gotta clutch it. He's gonna clutch it. He's got this. There we go. With a sliver of health left, he did it. Bye. Bye. But yeah, sustainability. I believe especially with AAA budgets and people got to make their money. If there's a way you can siphon money, or just maybe only release useful DLC, less nickel and dime. If you release like packs, like Tekken 7 I think has a decent scheme going on, where they can continuously release packs, and if you keep showing the value, people will buy in. But of course there's also the side fact of you can go bottom of the barrel and kind of just release anything and someone will buy it because the plebs and all of that. And I think, I'll go into that in another day, like plebs and how they ruin game, but we also need the plebs to keep our franchises up, because you can't all be cheapskates waiting for Steam sales and pre-owned buys, I guess. But either way, I believe gaming media, gaming in the widestream media is now mainstream, which is why, of course, it gets brought back and back again into media and links to violence. But then also being in mainstream is what keeps it alive, regardless of the fact that it is in this unsustainable position. I want to be hopeful for the future regarding both issues, but we'll see. I think in 2 or 3 years, when we move very, very heavily away from physical medium, at least maybe not, we'll see what happens. But otherwise, just got to hope in it and not buy into bullshit. But until then, it's been nice, and thank you for watching. Good night.